Society is transforming literally around us with AI.
You know, if you're a senior partner at a law firm and you're not a little bit nervous right now, you're not waking up in the middle of the night saying, wow, this is existential, you're probably way behind the curve.
You know, the client is going to show up with more information than the lawyer probably expects.
You run the risk of one day waking up and the technology is so good, you can't catch up.
A lot of that work that we've been talking about is easily done by an AI.
I do not think big law firms are doomed. We are on the precipice of kind of an existential change in terms of how we do business. There are a lot of other law firms that we're currently seeing today will not be here in 5 years. The biggest strategic risk, I think, to companies is being resistant to the technology. It's not about getting rid of all of your people and replacing them with AI. It's arming your people with AI so that they can optimize for what AI can't do.
How much greater do you think your efficiency is today?
I would say at least 5x, but at the end of the day, AI is not human. In the age of AI, where we are inundated with information, the human part is going to be more valuable than ever. This is the phase when every business, regardless of whether you're a law firm or a banker or you're an entrepreneur, you should be looking at your business and optimize for what you can do that the AI can't do. That's the question you should be asking. That's your ticket to the future.
Hey everyone, I'm DJ Patil. I'm the former US Chief Data Scientist. I'm also the former Chief Scientist of LinkedIn. Part of the best part of today is I get to talk to the guy who was the original general counsel of LinkedIn, as well as my own lawyer, but also the lawyer to many, many of the executives here in Silicon Valley, the guy who's really behind the scene and been on the cusp of multiple transitions. And that's why I'm so excited to be here with Doug Mandel. Doug, thank you for being here. This is going to be super fun, exciting, because we're actually in your shop. This is your place, Inflection.
We are at Inflection AI, and Inflection is one of the original frontier model companies. And as you know, we're passionate about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is really what we think of in terms of how people relate to each other, how we would want somebody to relate to us, and I think taking a next step from that, how we would want something like an AI to relate to users. I've been doing a lot of discussions in the legal world, specifically about how AI is causing a transformation with legal. We're seeing this transformation happen so fast. So I thought it would be interesting to combine what Inflection's known for, emotional intelligence, with the world of legal. And legal as a business is really, for the purpose of our discussion today, a way to illustrate just what's happening in business in general, because what we're going to talk about for legal is affecting all companies.
You've been the quintessential lawyer that charts their own path regularly. You go become a general counsel, whether it's LinkedIn, Nato, other places. You bounce back to having your own practice. You support a lot of founders. Talk to us just a little bit about that charting a path, because I think it's so unconventional.
I was an associate. I was at a big law firm. I was doing well there. I liked the firm, but I really realized there needed to be something more for me, and that's when I left that firm to join my first startup. And my 250,000 stock options ended up being worthless, but it was like Harvard Business School for me. It was my first time being part of an executive team, understanding what it meant to refine a business model constantly, working with investors, working with fellow employees, and I loved being part of a startup company. I also happen to love being a founder's lawyer to the great founders and executives of Silicon Valley, which you certainly are, but I like both. After that first startup, I said to myself, I'm going to focus on outside general counsel services, and I'm also going to represent founders and CEOs personally. In fact, I don't think there's anyone in the country who's been GC at the level that I have and also worked with individuals at the level that I have. And to be honest, Doing each has made me a better lawyer and a much more understanding lawyer. In fact, getting back to the theme here, emotional intelligence, really being able to understand how my clients are dealing with issues, whether it's in a startup or leading a startup, is critical.
Doug, you've seen lots of transitions of technologies, some good, some bad, some companies make it, some companies not make it. What's the biggest strategic risk out there today?
The biggest strategic risk, I think, to companies is being resistant to the technology and not moving fast enough. Speed is something we live with at technology companies. We're always talking about like how quickly transformation will happen and how important it is to be agile. Law firms aren't talking about that necessarily, right? They're not using terms like agile. Same with many other businesses today. I think that you need to be thinking and pushing yourself to say, all right, how can we benefit from this technology? And even if you're feeling overwhelmed, maybe you're at a business that doesn't share your view, maybe you're at a business that you think doesn't benefit from technology, something that you've been doing from routine that doesn't use tech that often, you still should try to push yourself to see how you could use it. And if you're at a business, take a micro step, take a mini step today, and try to think outside the box, because things really are changing and they are changing fast.
You talk to an unbelievable number of business leaders. What's the key advice you find yourself saying over and over again?
Try the technology.
Are they not using the technology?
You would be surprised how many people I've had to literally bring my iPad into their office. This was before I joined Inflection, and I was using AI, but a lot of lawyers who I knew in the community were not. In fact, a lot of them were talking about it, and then I would say, well, how are you using it? And they were like, oh, I haven't seen it yet. This was in the early days of ChatGPT. I recently heard a great story about someone using it to prepare recipes for cooking, or using it to analyze an investment in terms of modeling out future returns based on a personal investment someone made, or using it in order to prepare for a meeting with somebody or how to deal with a difficult relative. My dog recently had dental surgery, and I uploaded all of the instruction sheets into the AI, and she also had an ear infection at the same time. And here the AI is saying, oh, make sure that when you're doing Georgia's eardrops, you shake the bottle first, and make sure that you don't give her this, which could contraindicate with the anesthesia. It's like I had my own living health advisor for my dog. And that translates to people too. I mean, health is one of those areas where we are now at a place where today somebody who has very little money can get 24-hour medical, I won't say advice, because they're not allowed to give you advice, but they can give you medical information immediately in a time of urgency. That was not possible even a handful of years ago to anyone except for somebody wealthy enough to have a concierge doctor.
Doug, I find you one of the most optimistic people I know. Even though you can hold these very complex, all the way the world goes wrong, you wake up, you have your coffee in the morning, and you're rearing to go. What is it that's getting Doug so passionate about these problems?
Seeing the benefits firsthand, for me personally, is exciting to me. Having the ability to have almost like a personal AI assistant and being able to harness that assistant to make your life easier is really exciting to me. That's our mission at Inflection, by the way. And I'm excited for my mom to figure that out. I tell her about it, and I'm hoping she's using AI. But I think once she starts to see it and she steps over that imaginary boundary of fear into the unknown and takes a chance and sees the benefit of it, you can't go back from that.
What's your advice to friends when they ask you about how they should use these platforms to help them think through legal issues? Should people be using these things to put in legal documents? Are there risks?
Well, for one, I think you want to make sure the AI is not training on your data. Usually that's something you can turn on or off. You also have more control oftentimes with different AI that you might be paying for, but you need to do your own homework on that. I wouldn't put super sensitive information into the AI unless you're working with something that's very, very high level security. Not all AI companies are as thoroughly thinking through the safety side of issues or the data security side of issues that we are at Inflection. It's something that we think a lot about. What people want to do is increase your muscle memory with AI. In other words, build up this comfort level and keep pushing yourself to go further in terms of how can it help me. Let me give you an example. The first time I ever used Pi, and we use different data sets here at Inflection to try to make the AI more sensitive in terms of how it might know you. And I actually was going into a meeting with somebody who I thought was actually a narcissist. And I remember having this fascinating discussion with Pi about the characteristics of what a narcissist is, why I thought he was a narcissist. And then I said, based on all of the psychological research, and why don't you come at this from the point of view of a psychologist who is an expert in dealing with narcissists. And I actually cited a guy in San Diego who, to give the AI an example of the type of expert. How would we most effectively write an email to that person? And it was amazing. And it was like using all of this science and thoughtfulness, and then the AI explained it to me. I mean, that was an interesting way for me to use an AI.
How much greater do you think your efficiency is with AI today?
I mean, I would say at least 5x, just in terms of the time it takes to do things with AI. On CNBC, sometimes I'll hear companies say, we haven't seen the productivity lift from AI. What I'm thinking is those people don't know how to use AI. They're not using it, or they don't know how to use it to be efficient. And this is what I find so fascinating about this job. I get to play with these tools and think about this, and I'm surrounded by people who are real experts in it. At Inflection, what we're doing is we're trying to make AI simple for people. Our audience is probably someone like my mom, whose gut reaction is, I don't like AI. AI is really great if you have lost your job and you need to do a job search and you need to get your resume together and you need to draft cover letters and you need to prepare for interviews. But a lot of people aren't thinking that they're able to do that. So that's why I say you kind of have to push yourself, and you should be asking other people you know in your network, how are you guys using it? And watching videos to see what other people are doing, and then playing with it. And a lot of this is fear-based. For lawyers who are saying, I'm too old, and I say that because I'm old, like compared to the people I'm working with here, I'm not gonna learn. You're in trouble. But it's not too late.
You clearly know how to really unlock what your client needs and is trying to get at to solve the problem, even if they can't articulate it themselves. I think there's like a parallel version to this when you hear about doctors and bedside manner. Yeah. And they're not taught bedside manner.
It's one of my very favorite things about being a lawyer. And when you said bedside manner, you really struck a chord with me personally. Because my first client, when I started my own law firm, was actually my father, who was a doctor. And it was, helping him in terms of how to deal with legal issues that were confronting any doctor who's running a practice. It was really being able to be that person, be that sounding board for my own father that kind of opened my eyes to, wow, this is an amazing thing that lawyers do. I also had the benefit of starting out as an employment lawyer. And recently I was asked to speak to a class of law students, and the lawyer that introduced me, who's the professor, said, Doug's very unusual because he's become a general counsel after being an employment lawyer. And usually that's not the best place for a GC to start. Totally disagree with that. I was kind of shocked that he said that. And if you want to hire a lawyer who is great with EQ, look at employment lawyers, because we're dealing with clients from the very, very start. We are there helping them, counseling them on everyday questions in terms of how do we manage this person? What do we do if this happens? How do we deal with this law? So it was a wonderful training ground for me in terms of how to develop that practice. But it's something that requires exercise, just like in development, just like any other muscle does, right? It's something you have to work at, but the core tenets of it, understanding, interest in people, the desire to be able to help people and to read people is something that is an incredibly valuable skill, because it's one of the things right now that AI really can't do.
Give us your harshest critique of AI today.
The harshest critique of AI is, at the end of the day, it's information. It's solely information. It is an algorithm, by the way. I mean, it is a computer, right? Some are trained up better to relate to you better, which is one of the reasons I'm so proud to work at Inflection. But at the end of the day, AI is not human. And we are in a world today where, more than ever, we need to relate to each other as human beings. In the age of AI, where we are inundated with information, the human part is going to be more valuable than ever. Our CEO is a brilliant technologist. He's kind of like the perfect person to lead an AI company. But the reason he's a great CEO is because he understands people. He can motivate people. He is the type of person you want to do your best work for. Those types of skills are not going to be replaced by AI. As we continue to get more and more technologically evolved with AI, I think that human element is even more critical.
I want to go back a bit of ways to like when you were graduating from law school. The reason I want to go back is to use this as a juxtaposition for what you were like as a young lawyer, and then how that world is really going to be transformed.
I've been thinking about my path a lot in the age of AI recently. I was an okay associate. I realized that the things I wasn't great at, that the firm wanted me to be great at, actually AI is amazing at. I wasn't great at doing discovery responses, largely because I was bored by them. Same as summarizing a deposition, which would take me all weekend to go through a giant deposition and do a depo summary. Important at the time. Wasn't great at it. And writing briefs, I was okay at it, didn't love it. But the things I loved, like going and meeting potential clients, networking, going to court, being in deposition, advising clients, counseling clients, those things AI can't do. AI can do discovery responses in a nanosecond, but the stuff that's really critical, it can't do. Also, if I looked at everything that made me an incredibly successful senior partner at a major global law firm, it was actually all those EQ skills. If you're a junior lawyer today and you're looking at that, what does that mean? It means that you want to push yourself. And by the way, what I'm saying right now doesn't just apply to junior lawyers. It applies to anyone in a workplace today struggling or fearful of what AI should be doing or what they should be doing with AI. The answer is push yourself outside of your comfort zone. Figure out whether or not AI can do it better than you, and then optimize for what you can do that the AI can't do. That's your ticket to the future. We are examining every single workflow and then questioning how can we make that AI native. That's the question you should be asking. This is the phase when every business, regardless of whether you're a law firm or a banker or you're an entrepreneur, you should be looking at your business and asking yourself, what is our AI strategy? What is my own personal AI strategy? And how do I push myself outside of my comfort zone to really build this tool, this muscle of using AI to make you better?
If you're a business owner or a manager, what does an AI strategy look like, or what does that mean?
A lot of law firms today, not just for a law firm, for any business, we are on the precipice of kind of an existential change in terms of how we do business. For lawyers selling time today, how do we price that service knowing that in the existing business model, increased efficiency hurts revenue? How are we going to lead this transformation within our own organization? Who is going to be the point person? What are we going to do in terms of this massive change in technology? Are we going to be brave enough to look at our current business model and say, this doesn't really work in the future? So we have to have the courage to change. And I think that's what this whole discussion about transformation is really about. It is making big changes. So getting to the root of your question, let me answer it in the negative. What's not an AI strategy? What is not an AI strategy is, don't worry, DJ, welcome to the law firm, here's Copilot. That's not an AI strategy. That's a tool, that's an AI tool, but it's not an AI strategy. An AI strategy is looking holistically at the organization and asking, how is our organization going to change in light of the power of AI? So if you're not aware of this, you run the risk of one day waking up and the technology is so good, you can't catch up. And that's something that I think businesses need to really take seriously, especially businesses that care about their people. It's not about getting rid of all of your people and replacing them with AI. It's arming your people with AI so that they can optimize for what AI can't do, and they can use AI to be so efficient.
You're one of the few lawyers that has, I think, has lived through multiple technology transformations from Web 1.0, photo sharing apps, social media, LinkedIn, autonomous vehicles, mobile, now AI. We're seeing lots of questions around what does it mean to be a lawyer in this day and age?
Well, we're in a whole new world because a lawyer used to be there to provide the answer, right? There's a legal issue, the lawyer goes and figures that out and comes back to the client. In the age of AI, and as you know, being a data person, we can now get the answer usually immediately. But that access to information actually highlights what's so important on the EQ side of practicing law. So for example, understanding what the client's true needs are, understanding what the client means when he or she speaks to you, even though they may be saying something different than what you think they are actually thinking. How to listen, knowing when to listen and when to push back, helping or being able to build trust. All of these things that I would call soft skills, are actually more important than ever in practicing law.
How do you advise, and how do you think about law as it pertains to the future?
So I think there's even more opportunity today in law, but there are some areas I wouldn't go into, and there are some areas I would. A lot of people are saying, well, maybe not best to go into litigation, because AI will do discovery responses and can help write briefs. Absolutely, but that just highlights all of the other things that litigators do that AI can't do, which AI will actually free them up to do more. So for example, going to court, being in deposition, meeting with a client, being in mediation, all of these things, AI will empower these lawyers to get out in front and do what they really want to do, as opposed to doing stuff that, to be honest, when I was a second-year litigator, I didn't like doing. And I really like doing the stuff that AI is not good at. And that's going to be the power of technology, I think, in law. One final thing I'll say is I was really encouraged to recently see, number one, law school applications this year were up. I think people are seeing, in the age of AI, this thing that my parents used to say to me all the time, go to law school, you'll think like a lawyer, it'll be valuable. That's really true, just like a liberal arts education is valuable in the age of AI, or thinking about data the way you do is valuable in the age of AI. The other thing that's really struck me just recently is there's a chart which is making its way around LinkedIn that shows all these different industries. and AI adoption within the industry. And as in that chart, legal has the biggest opportunity for AI adoption. In other words, we're not doing a good job in law of adopting AI. And to be honest, I saw the exact same thing when I was at LinkedIn in the early days. And I was meeting with lawyers and I was like, you need to get on this, and here's why. Some of the lawyers were very excited about it, and probably 50% of them were like, I don't need this. We're seeing the exact same adoption patterns with AI.
What's the structure of the new general counsel? And then take us into what does the AI native law firm start to look like versus a traditional law firm?
Even though we have 2 in-house lawyers at Inflection, I am very, very much part of a team. Outside counsel in the US, outside counsel in Europe, we need all those people. Even with all of the power of AI, we still need those people. However, using AI tools like GCAI, which we use, Claude with a legal plugin, which we use, we're about to adopt a AI native legal repository for contracts where we'll actually be able to dialogue with our own contracts. It's making us really, really efficient. It's also shifting the power dynamic, and this is something that's really great as a general counsel, between the law firm and the GC. What it means in terms of starting a project before we go to them, for example, we just went through a major data security process at Inflection, something that's actually going to be required by state law in the future. We're ahead of the curve. We did it ourselves to make us even better. That process, if we didn't have AI, would have not only cost a fortune, but it would have taken a long time. I was able to start by going to GCAI, say, generate a sample AI data security policy for a company in the AI space. And then I shared that in a Google Doc with our engineers and our product people and our safety people, and I said, what are we doing here? What are we not doing? In other words, let's create our own gap analysis. Then I put that into the AI. Then I generated a new document for exactly what we're doing, what we're not doing. Then I shared that with outside counsel. And it made for a much more productive conversation. Outside counsel still generated our policy, but we were in control of the process in a way that we never would have been able to do in the past. We are not looking to replace outside counsel with AI. We are not looking to do that. I do not believe that is going to happen. I believe that outside counsel who don't use AI will be left behind.
When you think about the role of these firms and their ability to adopt technology, take us through what you think is going to happen to the legal profession.
One of the biggest issues in terms of this transformation that all companies will have to go through, and that is leadership. If you're not in an organization, doesn't matter whether you're at a law firm or a company, you have to have a strong leader who is shepherding in this change. They're going to need to delegate to a true technology change agent who has budget and power and authority to think in terms of how they're going to bring their law firm along. And by the way, you and I are both startup people. So contrast a law firm, which is usually a partnership, with a strong startup. I mean, at our company, we have a strong CEO who is a leader. He can make decisions, and if he makes a decision tomorrow, he can turn the whole direction. He can. He has that power. A lot of law firms don't have the benefit of that structure, but there are a number that do. Law is a really great area to talk about with AI because it's the most conservative profession. It moves very, very slowly. So AI adoption within law is probably one of the last industries to really, really make this transformation. I would love to hear from law firms today about how they think they're going to price in the future. We used to make tons and tons of money off of first and second years doing discovery and going to the proverbial warehouse and looking for the document or doing discovery responses. What do we do if we can't charge for that anymore? I personally think billable hour is going to go away in the future. By the way, for the best of the best firms, I'm not worried about them These firms that are doing large, complicated projects involving the management of many different groups of people. Think M&A, antitrust, litigation, global investigations. That work is going to increase, and they're going to make even more money because AI is going to be supportive of them being able to leverage themselves. There are a lot of other law firms that maybe are not at that level that we're currently seeing today will not be here in 5 years. I know that's an audacious thing to say, but if they don't have a true strategy, they're not going to be able to compete.
How is a lawyer ever going to get trained? How is a doctor ever going to get trained? Because those entry-level jobs, a lot of that work that we've been talking about is easily done by an AI. So what is your advice for an associate to make sure they can grow in this way? And how does a firm who is thinking about their leadership over the long arc, how do they think about what the training programs need to look like for law?
Well, as I think about my own situation in terms of my development as an associate, which was, I am so grateful for the law firms that I was at, because I wouldn't be able to be the partner that I was if I hadn't been trained by some amazing mentors. And I really learned the practice of law by watching them. So the advice that I would say, number one, to a young lawyer, or anyone for that matter, is, and this is going to be unpopular, my biggest advice is go into the office. In technology today, that isn't really an issue. At Inflection, we're in the office 5 days a week, and people take it seriously. And actually, so much great stuff happens by being in the office, mainly the feeling of being a part of a team. But understand, and this is a quote I read on X, if you're an engineer and you think being at home is great, you're losing leverage. It's true in law. Like, if you're not there, you're not really able to get what you need once you're no longer at the law firm, right? How to function in an organization.
Well, let's say you find this, like, one of these great mentors, or someone has a chance to potentially work with you. Why are you going to hire them? Because you have access to all of this technology and so much superpowers.
Law firms are still hiring first-year associates. These top firms actually have needs, and they are worried on the other end of it. They're like, hey, who's going to be in the partner class in the future? So it's, even in this age of AI, firms still need junior partners, they need junior associates, they need senior associates, which are when they're very profitable from a law firm perspective. But I don't know how that's going to be, how that is going to be impacted. If I was a law student today, I would be trying to learn everything I can with AI.
Society is transforming literally around us with AI, whether people like it or not. The client is going to show up with more information than the lawyer probably expects. The evidence is this is what we're seeing with the doctor-patient relationship. So when we look at these kind of things and that adoption, does law just have this Cambrian moment that there's going to be decimation, and then there's going to be a whole bunch of AI native firms and individuals or solo practitioners that emerge?
Well, I think a couple things. One, there's no question that, like patients, clients, and I saw this when I was a partner at the law firm that I was at before I joined Inflection, clients were coming to me, sending me their AI's analysis of their agreement, right? What they didn't realize was that actually was creating quite a lot of work for us. Because whereas the AI was able to summarize the agreement, we still had to walk them through the key parts of it, and the AI wasn't really able to calibrate what areas were super important to the client and what were not. The AI could point out and say, here are the top 10 things that you need to ask for in an employment agreement, for example. The reality is most executives in an employment negotiation get their top 3 things, and they push really hard for those things. It's the lawyer who is adept at this that can actually say to the client, you know what? In an ideal world, it'd be great to get all of these things. We're not going to get all of these things. And in fact, in this market, here's what the company is likely to say no to. But let's optimize for what really matters for you. And let's dig into that. That's that EQ side, by the way. That's so important. The reality for lawyers now, though, is they have to live within this new world. They have to be open to the fact that their clients are going to use this tool. So things are changing. I think business will evolve in the future in terms of how they work with clients as they get more familiar with the technology that the clients are using.
When you find yourself up late at night and you're thinking about AI, what's keeping you up late at night?
As the GC at an AI company, I want to make sure our user data is safe. I want to make sure our AI isn't used for inappropriate purposes. And the key to that, and this is one of the things I love about being at a startup, is it's all about team. So I have a really good team. And when I say team, I don't just mean people who report into me, but I have people like our chief data officer, engineers, safety people, my associate GC, who are all thinking the same way. And I think, to be honest with you, that's what you want to see in your AI company. Just like at a law firm, you want somebody thinking about those issues that affect you as well, or any company. The thing that makes AI so unique, DJ, is that it is changing constantly. And you want to make sure that you have people who are focused on that, safety and security.
Doug, we've covered a tremendous amount of surface area across these, and it clearly shows that you have not just lived the different generations of technology, but you're an adopter of these technologies, figuring out all these things. So thank you for taking us on this journey of AI. Obviously, just the beginning. We're just at the tip of the iceberg of this movement, and it's going to be the exciting thing to have a lot more of these kind of conversations with you. So thank you.